threat for community.
How do you guys engage with the community? Why do you think that is?
First, let's define Heartland as that Microsoft has split up the U.S. into sales quadrants. There's 3 regions: East, Central, West. And the Central region, which is the region that we're in here in Tennessee, is split up into 4 districts. And one of those districts is Heartland, and that district is Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, and Tennessee. And so Jeff and Brian are dedicated resources to the Heartland districts. I have broad responsibilities to Central. I've got a much narrower focus on my audience at this point, but they've got a broad audience, but a narrower district, narrower geography. So that kind of laid the groundwork there. So throw that to you guys.
All right, so I think what the base of your question is what are we doing, or what is it about our community that's unique? The first thing, I want to make sure I set this expectation. I may or may not be speaking for Brian here, but I don't think that he or I or Jennifer Marsman, who's our third partner in crime, necessarily can take any of the credit for how strong the community is here. Like I said earlier, I like to think of myself as a catalyst at best, but really it's because of the fact that we have Chris Woodruff willing to drive from Lansing all the way down to Knoxville, Tennessee. These are the kinds of people that we have here that want to get engaged, want to learn more, want to better themselves. I think that we help provide those opportunities, but I don't think that we necessarily can take any of the credit per se.
I fully agree. I would say it's the sense of sharing.
Right? Yeah. But I mean, this truly is. I mean, if you guys are on Twitter, like it seems most of the group are in here, I mean, there is a defined Twitter tribe. There's a group of people that Twitter wasn't enough for them, so they opened an IRC channel and sit on IRC every day talking with each other, just because they know they've got some really bright people that they can sit and talk and learn from. And I think that actually started here, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. We lost the person who started that, but yeah, there was a few people that took that old channel and moved out there and has more of a real-time group communication.
I think it came from TechEd a couple of years ago, actually. That's where it sort of formed, then it kind of became a thing.
So I don't want to step around your question. We have a very hardworking, very intelligent group of people here in the Heartland. Not that other districts don't, but I think we're very fortunate that these people have all found an opportunity to click and get together and plan events and do all this kind of stuff. I know that in other districts, especially when you go out to the West Coast, there are times where the evangelists are the ones that say, okay, we want to have a code camp. We want it to be 2 days, and we want it to be in this city. Can someone please help us put this on? And more often than not, Brian or I will get a phone call saying, hey, we've got this whole thing planned. We just need some help with sponsorship. Can you guys throw us a couple dollars? And it's a great benefit to us, because then we get to spend a lot more of our time helping rather than trying to create all these events. I mean, as Mike will tell you, putting an event of this size on is a huge time-consuming event. And for us not to have to be involved in those kinds of things, and instead more focused on making sure that everybody has the knowledge and the resources and the stuff that they need to do their jobs better, I think that helps us a lot.
Very good. So we got Joe Kump's got a question for you guys. Joe?
Hi. First of all, before I ask your question, I want to just comment briefly on the Web 2.0 question and the outer browser experience. I think that there's a fairly large subset of people who are really looking to Silverlight to kind of become their vehicle for line of business apps. They want to move out of WinForms, maybe WPF, and put it into Silverlight. Which kind of leads to my question, which is Microsoft emphasizing Silverlight at the expense of WPF?
So the question is Microsoft promoting Silverlight and developing Silverlight at the expense of WPF?
Right. It seems like the attention span from Microsoft is very heavily focused right now on the Silverlight experience, almost to the detriment, perhaps, of WPF.
Well, so what I'll say is that the buzz on the external is mostly around Silverlight. Internal, and I mean, there have been a tremendous number of new enhancements to WPF, and I mean, if you look at WPF 4, there's a startling amount of enhancements especially as they're bringing the Surface SDK and the WPF4 SDK closer and closer together, so we can actually write one common experience there between the Surface and Windows 7. So I mean, but that's not catching the excitement and the buzz and the external. So it's really the media and the blogosphere that is pushing that perception that Silverlight's getting more development time than WPF. Are WPF and Silverlight competitors? And yes, in some ways they are, and in a lot of ways they're very complementary, because you can take from the WPF experience and have a really, really deep and rich experience with true 3D, with access to the full box and a whole bunch of other things that you can do on the desktop that you can't do in the browser. And then you can prepare a lighter experience in using a lot of the same code base. You can prepare a lighter experience for the web, the Silverlight, and have that run across platforms heavily. There are not a lot of people that do that, but that has been the intent from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the really, really successful applications that I've seen out there are doing that. For example, Winchester has got a wicked cool ballistics calculator demo that they first wrote for Silverlight, then they ported it to Win 7, and now they're writing a lightweight version for Silverlight. And I mean, it's really cool.
I think he meant Surface.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They first wrote it for Surface, then Win 7, then Silverlight.
So did they shoot the table?
That's how you calculate.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. First you have to put it into the hoist and it goes, pull!
The table.
I have an addition to this answer though.
That's why they went to Ultra Mobiles and Win 7 is because they were easier to pull.
So one of the other reasons that you're always going to hear more about Silverlight is because we have this struggle, right? In order for you to develop Silverlight applications, we have to convince you that there's enough computers in the world running Silverlight. The only way to get more computers running Silverlight is to get things like the Olympics and get more people interested in installing that plugin. And so one of the big challenges we're constantly facing is how do we get Silverlight on more machines? I have a lot of people asking, well, why not just make it a Windows update? It doesn't have to be urgent, but it has to be optional or something like that. And the answer to that will always be because people like to sue Microsoft.
It is actually out there as optional to use.
Right, but people aren't going to get it by default. I mean, it's not something they choose to get. So what we end up with is a paradigm where we want people to develop Silverlight applications, and we know that it's important and a cool thing to do. But on the same token, when you go to your boss and say, yeah, it's on like however many percent machines, I wish I had a number for you. Let's say 25%. I think it's higher than 25%. But
there's not actually published numbers. It's 300 million some odd downloads as of May.
300. That's the entire population of Europe. 300 million.
Yeah.
Okay. So. That's one of the big challenges. You can't go to your boss and say, well, only 25 or 30% of people have Silverlight. Let's build that for you. But when we start talking about internal applications, I've seen a very, very large bank that's working on a Silverlight application. It's very, very cool. It manages all of their branch installations, all of the computers they have in all of their branches. They can go into a Silverlight application, see a map of the branch, zoom in, find a specific computer, and say, wipe that, start over. There's a lot of very, very cool things that they're doing with Silverlight that would be generally pretty hard to do in a web interface. So I think that's why you're going to hear a lot more about Silverlight, though, is because we need that install base.
You know what, guys? I'm surprised you didn't mention Visual Studio 2010.
Well, they haven't got to me yet.
Oh, well, Brian, jump in there, man.
Mr. Keith.
Mr. Brian.
Another smaller aspect is the ship vehicle. WPF ships with the framework. Silverlight ships on its own schedule. And with the internet, right, things are moving faster, and they're more aggressively pursuing revving Silverlight more often in different steps, where WPF is more of a fundamental enterprise thing that they take very careful consideration of everything they're doing. So they're on two different ship schedules, and that's why Silverlight may seem like it gets more